We have a pretty significant update on the Jack Eichel situation. Apparently a deal was really close to going down just a few days ago, and things are picking up, and it could actually come to a head and be happening soon. Apparently there are 5 teams in the mix. We'll discuss the possibilities coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a pretty significant update on the Jack Eichel Buffalo Sabres stalemate situation where Eichel's waiting for a trade. We had some information come today from Emily Kaplan of ESPN who dropped some pretty significant information on their point program. She went on to say that as of last Thursday, there were some NHL insiders and sources that were under the impression that a deal was pretty close to going down and expected to maybe wrap up on Friday, but then things went quiet, so it kind of stalled out. But she also went on to say that the NHL and the NHLPAs, we've heard from other sources as well, has not been a fan of the stalemate. Been trying to intervene and help the two sides come to a resolution, in that things have been progressing a little bit further, that Eichel's been able to share medicals through his agent with other teams, which is also information that we had heard before, and that things were progressing along. And as she said, there's 5 teams currently in the mix. Now, she didn't go on to say exactly who she thought those teams were to be, but as I mentioned before, some of the teams that we've known and talked about before, I think are fair to say aren't in the mix anymore, like the Los Angeles Kings. The Minnesota Wild were linked to there for a long time. I don't think they're involved anymore, and I really don't think the New York Rangers are either. At least you wouldn't think so after the Mika Zibanejad contract extension. That's pretty significant amount of money. So to me, those teams are likely out. But of course, until it's over, it ain't over, and we can't say any team is really 100% out until a deal happens and he goes somewhere else. But one team that they did talk about was Vegas, and I will reference some other information here. On the Jeff Merrick show just a few days ago, he was interviewing Gary Lawless, who's the insider for the Golden Knights, and Merrick went on to say that according to what he had heard, that the teams that had gotten the closest to getting a deal done in the past was Vegas and Calgary, and he was trying to get Gary Lawless to kind of confirm that. He wouldn't really give a whole lot, but one thing he did say was that he would suspect that the Sabres were wanting Peyton Krebs in any deal going back the other way, and that Vegas was very much reluctant to include him. And I understand that. He's by far their top prospect, but they've traded all their other top prospects. They had 3 first-round picks in their very first NHL entry draft, where they were able to acquire the likes of Nick Suzuki, Cody Glass, and Eric Brandstrom, and none of which are with the organization. They were all included in other trades, which brought them Max Pacioretty, Mark Stone, and Nolan Patrick. So obviously, to me, they're not necessarily opposed to doing this. They have Alex Tuch on long-term injury reserve. Of course, he will be coming back later in the year. They would have to move some money out to make this happen. One move that we've heard if Vegas was going to do this before, that they might be looking to move Riley Smith, either to the Sabres or to a third party, and he was linked to the Rangers. Gerard Gallant really wanted to bring him to New York, but I guess we'll have to see. Those are all moving parts. But it made sense here that based on what they're talking about on the program today on the point, that it makes a lot of sense for Vegas. And I agree. They're a team that has a lot of veteran players. They're built to win right now. And a guy like Jack Eichel, who's still in his early to mid-20s, can slot right down in there, give them that top center that they need. That's really the missing ingredient for the Golden Knights here to really be a more solid cup contender, in my opinion. And it can be that bridge between the older veterans and the next generation of guys that'll come later. But to me, Vegas needs to insert some more youth here, or in a few years' time, when these veteran guys like Stone and Pacioretty and Marchessault, once they start slowing down here a little bit, they don't have that next wave. They don't have a deep pool of prospects or things in the waiting here, because they've really tried to win right now, which is totally fine. They want to bring a winning atmosphere and excitement and a Stanley Cup to that city as soon as possible. Totally commendable. They've done a great job. They've gotten really close. So can you imagine what it would be like to add this guy? So were they the team that came close? I don't know. But the Flames are another team, as Jeff Merrick mentioned, that have also apparently reportedly been really close as well. I don't know exactly everything that they would have involved in a trade, but certainly, again, they could benefit greatly from an injection of a top center iceman like Jack Eichel. At this point, I don't think it's fair to say Eichel wouldn't really care where he plays as long as it's not in Buffalo. As far as who those other teams could be, I think you're probably looking at the Anaheim Ducks. I think you're probably looking at the Columbus Blue Jackets. They're likely another one. They've been linked there before. That's 4 out of 5 teams. I'm not really sure if you look around, like I said, for the 5th team. I said, I don't think it's the Rangers. I don't think it's the Kings. I don't think it's the Wild. There could be a stealth team in there. I wouldn't even completely rule out Steve Yzerman and the Red Wings. Yzerman is known for pulling off crazy trades and and really getting great deals done. We haven't heard Detroit. There's no linkage there. That's just me saying I don't think you can count out Yzerman, and I don't think that, with everything that they've got going on, they could certainly use a guy like Eichel. I mean, I know Boston's another team. Obviously, that would be like his hometown team. I'm sure Eichel would love to be a Bruin. They would probably love to have him. They do have a gaping hole down the middle behind Patrice Bergeron. Bergeron's only signed for this year. Makes a lot of sense as well. But can they make that work? I'm not 100% sold that the Bruins are going to have the necessary assets that can make it work cap-wise, but you never know. They very well could be that 5th team after starting the year down a centerman. It might make sense that maybe they are still involved in the mix. But like as I've said before, and all the other NHL insiders I've said reportedly before too, you can't really rule out a lot of teams, and there could be a team that's not even talked about come out of nowhere at the last minute, make a stunning offer and get a deal done. But Emily Kaplan did go on to say right now that the preferred method to get this resolved is for the 5 teams, she said, that are interested and been linked or getting close are all okay with him having the disc replacement surgery, and that he would be traded, have his surgery. He could start getting on the ice in about 6 weeks, but it'd be 3 to 4 months before he'd be able to play. That pushes us out probably somewhere, we're getting close to the trade deadline, essentially, depending on how quickly things come together. That's if it happens relatively soon, and he could certainly play near the end of the season. That would be a real possibility. So it's something that we could see actually take place and get done, and he could play at the end of the year and into the playoffs, depending on which team he ends up going to. The other option, she said, if none of those 5 teams can strike a deal, he could file a grievance against the Sabres where they won't let him have his surgery. But she said based on the wording of the CBA, the unions doesn't seem confident that they could really help him overcome that and win a battle against the team. So that's likely not going to be the preferred route. And I can sub for those out there who say, why doesn't Jack just go get the surgery on his own? Well, he's putting a lot of risk here that his contract could get voided. At the end of the day, the team has final say, and if they won't approve the surgery, then clearly it's a situation that if anything goes wrong, it's going to be at his own risk, and he could be losing up to $50 million, and it's not worth him taking that chance. But in case you haven't noticed, there's been other comments, like look at the Minnesota Wild recently with Bill Guerin talking about one of their players having surgery and having different imaging done, and they talked about some different options, and he's made sure, and I'm not sure if this is a case of them taking a stab at the Sabres, but ultimately coming out and saying, at the end of the day, we're going to do all these different options for the player, and they will choose what option they want to go down for recovery and getting surgery, whatever. We've heard player agents speak out. I believe it was Alan Walsh, who's been an agent for a long time, said it's always been his understanding and his dealing that majority of the time the team will have different options presented. They're welcome to get second opinions. And at the end of the day, whatever the player decides, the team usually goes along with it. This is not usual circumstances. I understand this is not a usual surgery. It's not a common occurrence. But at the end of the day, the Sabres are certainly playing hardball, and I understand why. I really do. But it's getting to that point where we need to get something done and move on. And it sounds like, according to Emily Kaplan, things are getting close. If they were under the impression on Thursday that a deal might be considered imminent, but then went quiet, clearly they were having trouble on the full package and pieces involved. So if things pick up here, it could be a matter of days or short term here before that picks up again. Be curious to see which 5 teams they are and who is the actual end up trading partner to get this deal done. There could even be a third team involved as a broker. Teams might need to clear space. It's really difficult to say. But of course, I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this news. Where do you think he ends up? Do you think things are hitting up to the point that we will get a trade in the very near future? Give me your mock trades. We'll discuss those in the comments and discuss further. If you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.